Work is going great.
Cool story.
Yes.
Really? Was it like someone took over, or they just decided that it made more sense?
Because I work at home. They're still using me as the poster child. Yeah.
I'm actually going out next week. Flying out on Sunday. We've got a company.
So they're public. They're public right now.
Well, it's super cool. It's
Stuff actually organized
that looks like it's gonna be
training.
MESTO.
it always is.
The one in
MEP.
It always it's a lot. So I got this is very early news right now. I don't even know if it's news yet, but I got a text message from my brother that he's
It
looks
he's trying to start like
the fact that most of this programming lives on the stack. There's like almost no. Is there any
incubator in Reddit.
basically I can see why companies who are looking to
My brother's like, yeah, I'm like,
processes would like it.
Ignoring his calls. Probably that's where it's becoming a real problem.
yeah.
So airphone.
I gotta say.
Yeah.
Like calls the expected.
I understand that. I trust you.
And expect to see you here.
Me neither.
Two old people streaming.
Sure, you'll be able to figure it out. You know? You're just saying if like a 14-year-old girl from Russia can do it, I'm sure you can figure it out.
You got your Twitch at? Yeah, you got your...
Yeah, I'll make a cameo, you know? Oh, hello. You know?
I'm streaming on YouTube, sorry.
Yeah. We'll probably.
I have a
edit
Twitch
that
account,
out.
I just haven't,
We'll edit that out.
haven't ever streamed on it.
Yeah, we'll be neighbors.
Yeah, YouTube is crazy. Like if you have copyrighted music playing in the background of any of your clips, they take them down.
They actually, I mean, I saw on the channel today that you can't stream from the mobile app unless you have like 1,000 subscribers. That's totally weird.
Really?
My channel happens to have almost 10,000 because there's, not that I do anything with it, but I just post like random videos of my kids and stuff. There's a video of my daughter that the algorithm likes, so it has 5 million views.
Really?
I haven't done anything. Just a video of my daughter's baby.
Doing whatever?
Just it was after she was born in the hospital, we were getting her rescued and taking her home to the hospital. It's just like somehow the algorithm likes it.
Yeah, hey, there you go. Like, people pay money for an algorithm to pay attention to it.
It's bizarre.
Another quick reminder, if you haven't yet signed in,
I don't want to be the overcheater.
please know that you're not going to be able to make your beer time afterwards.
I'm sticking around.
Ted, how are you doing? Good. Good. Awesome. Yeah. How about you? How's your new day?
I'm going down to Atlanta next week, actually. We have a company all on site on Monday, and so yeah.
You get a little bit of warm weather.
Yeah, I was down there in December. It was like 30 or something. That's not right. Not okay. It was just like 70 on Monday.
Yeah, you do.
Live streaming. It's fancy. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to look at away before the holiday, and she was saying about your cats.
Cat drama.
Yeah, there's some cats.
She's really excited because she's co-teaching a class this semester.
Oh yeah,
She's excited to get back to teaching. She was a high school teacher. She really likes teaching.
I'd love to take one of her classes. It'd be awesome.
Just a couple more minutes, let it stragglers.
She's like the
It's like
research.
statistics, right?
Yeah, she's like covering like the research methodology part of the class. And, do you know that like before she pursued her PhD, like she always thought she was bad at math? She had this like really direct. She had like a bad math teacher.
You know, that's honestly, like, I think that there's so many kids like confused about it.
like one teacher that doesn't, you don't learn something and then you just decide that you're not good at it or whatever.
Well, there's so many kids who like they get the love of reading. They don't discover it again.
We've been working really hard with Isabella. We've actually got her some private tutoring in math because she's been struggling a little bit.
Like
Alright.
white males are
John. Oh, thanks, John.
I think it's give it a decade. We'll claim some reparations.
Really good. So we have some ideas about how do we celebrate. So draft some stuff up and then shoot the plan.
Sounds good.
There's a couple people that want to get involved. Probably
Another guy?
yeah, so a couple of these sponsors are sort of retiring.
Really? Do you have any pictures? I want to see.
Some of the people I don't know, but they're good organizations and stuff.
But these
So I sit there, but I guess that
yeah.
it's going to sit there.
Do you want to sit here? I can
No,
grab
no,
this
no, I'm
one.
good. I'm good.
There's lots of seats.
Explaining prescription glow in the dark glasses.
Thank you for sending the stuff. Did
Yeah, right?
you see the part where she's down?
Yeah, sure.
No, yeah. I haven't really noticed. Only when I go from like. Yeah. You're the pixel guy, right? I got him.
So you're gonna get me a deck?
Yeah, I wonder my the graphic design.
Yeah, really cool on both Pixar and on
Oh, yeah. What's the union? Was that?
yeah, Capsule.
Yeah.
There's this whole team I got the idea from. So it's like if they can make all their engines going to be yeah. I think we had that because they thought having it's or some sort of weird JRPGs or I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe in the style of that's the more ambitious. I want to do the small one first.
Yeah, I feel like the runners would be a little easier, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, just add a lot of different like accessories and modifications and do it actually like a
Yeah, that's the weird thing. I figured I'm getting like yeah.
We're live now. We are live. We've been live for like 8 minutes.
Bring the lights down when it's about to start.
I assume we get most of the people that are watching, so I don't know what the audio pickup is like of this, but I assume it probably won't be too bad because it's right here.
Well, it was a passion project too. For a long time. Have you ever played Cave Story?
Yes.
Same type of
Yeah.
deal. One guy.
That was a really
you
long
know?
development ago.
Oh, yeah.
Consider it was short. But of all these ones, we were not one guy. It's like 5 years ago. Like bench last yeah. Making a video.
Cave Story was
Depends on the era of game.
yeah.
Like whether you fall into like platform or RPG projects. I don't still think some of the strong. That was the game I grew up with.
Realize it would be smarter to do this.
Hey, John.
Hi. Just going to start with an opening note. After every month's presentation, we have a little tradition of going to a nearby establishment to have food, drink, and to continue the conversation. We playfully call this beer time. I highly recommend making some time for this because I'm convinced that it's the topic of the presentation that brings people in. but it's the community and the camaraderie and the feeling that comes with that that gets all of you guys to keep coming back. Today, your time will be at the Backyard Ale House on Linden Avenue. Or is it Linden Street? It's next to the square. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker. Nick Rosati is the defense project leader at Production Systems Automation, where he has written proposals and managed research and development projects valued over $20 million. Also an entrepreneur, Nick is opening a distillery in Wilkes Barre and has won a $40,000 grant from the United States Department of Agriculture related to the project. Today, Nick will be speaking with us about the various funding programs related to technology available to small businesses. With regards to hobbies, Nick enjoys building and restoring cars and motorcycles, going to rock shows, competitive shooting, and designing machines. And when you get the chance, be sure to ask him about all the cool licenses and certifications that he has that allows him to have things and do things that normal civilians like us cannot do. Thank you, Nick, for sharing your passion with us.
Thanks everyone for coming. So I'm going to be talking about different types of government contract opportunities that are related to mostly tech and research. Talking about why you would want to do it, what the programs are, how to get started, and some tips on how to get a proposal for one of those. So my background, I'm the defense project leader at PSA. We do day-to-day things, manufacturing of different prototype munitions. We have a big machine shop. We do research and development on designing different parts for new projectiles, like stuff for grenade launchers, artillery, cannon rounds. One of the projects we're working on, we're trying to make drones come out of grenade launchers and mortars. We do a lot of really weird, interesting things with the defense projects there. Graduated from Wilkes in 2012, started at PSA right after I graduated. At my EIT, opening up a distillery in Wilkes Barre. The grant that I got from the USDA is related to converting coal mine dumps into orchards. That's going pretty well so far. And I placed my money on buying government surplus and bad tax properties. Lots of crazy stuff to do up there. This is a lot of the government work background stuff that I've done. I have a lot of licenses in a lot of various things that the government controls. So I have a lot of experience with that. The 3 sibbers and the 3 dotsies were with PSA and company that was PSA, company that was formerly Keystone Automation that got bought by PSA. I wrote all the proposals and managed all the projects for those.
For those who might not know, can you expand Sibber and Dotsie?
I'm getting to that.
Okay, sorry. I'll shut up now.
So lots of licenses, very familiar with a lot of government things. So I am not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. You guys shouldn't listen to anything that I say. It's my disclaimer. So there is no free government money at all. Matt Lesko, I think, got question marks on the suit. Does not just, the government doesn't give away free money. There's always, you need to work for it, and it's usually fairly complicated to get started. Once you get going, it's a lot easier. So talking about why you would want to do this, all of this stuff is that I'm talking about today is focused on doing technical research, trying to make something new, trying to hit a requirement the government has that doesn't that they don't have anything that can hit that yet. So there's a lot of interesting things that they're trying to do. The 3 topics in here right now are ones that are currently open, they're accepting proposals on right now. So secure FPGA zeroization for military systems abandonment, that sounds pretty interesting to me. How do you make something that you can securely wipe everything on there wipe everything on there so no one can read what's on there, but still have it function 100% all the time. And a lot of interesting things. AI is really popular right now. Data analytics. There's a lot of stuff related to programming and software, but there's also a lot of stuff with materials, mechanical, structural design, tons of very different things. I mean, the USDA stuff can go through how do I plant this thing here, make it grow in an environment it's not supposed to grow in, to developing new plants, genetic research, lots of very different things. Government contracting can be pretty high value. Just in the past 5 years with SBIR awards in Pennsylvania, there's been over $2 billion awarded to small businesses. SBIR is ours. You need to be a small business to get that funding. So I mean, there's a lot of value that's available to people that want to develop something and make a new product. You meet a ton of people through these contracts, either at the meetings that you go to once you get the contract, the networking events that they have, industry days, run into a lot of very interesting people that can be very helpful. And the last thing is you actually help people in society. So there's a soldier that needs something to help prevent them or reduce the amount of weight that they need to carry. That's huge. And it's really interesting. Why you wouldn't want to do this, so it's the government. There's a lot of weird things that go on. Everything is really slow. Hurry up and wait is definitely a thing that happens. One of the things that we're working on right now, we've been waiting for a response on a contract with him for 1.5 years. Payments are slow. Cash flow, a lot of the contracts, you need to do the work, send the money out, pay everybody, and then you submit your invoice after all the work's done, and then they have 30 days to pay your invoice. So that gets very difficult, and it's kind of a crunch on small businesses trying to get started. Inconsistency, so it's all competitive. SBIR programs are really competitive. Almost all the programs are really competitive, so you need to put in a proposal, doing great, do the work, and then you wait and see if you're going to get the contract or not. So if you do get an award, you know you have work for 6 months or a year, but you need to keep working more and more and more to make sure you have more work coming in when that job is done. One of the big things that's hard to get started with a small business, with the SBIR program specifically, is that person doing the main research on it needs to have full-time employment, and you're not allowed to work full-time anywhere else if you're the principal investigator. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's one thing to be aware of. Tons of paperwork, ridiculous PowerPoints that you need to do if you're doing anything with the DoD, Department of Defense, and a lot of times you need to make your project and thing you want to work on fit into the funding opportunities. For example, the agricultural research that I'm doing right now is through the specialty crop block grant program from the USDA. So that's to fund specifically specialty crops. So anything basically that's not a grain or a commodity. I wanted, my distillery, I want to make whiskey. Whiskey, you need corn, grain, it's all grain in oak barrels. I can't get funding to research corn because it's not a specialty crop, but if I want to make brandy, I can make that from any fruit. So I put together a proposal to be like, hey, I want to turn these cold dumps into orchards, and we got funding for it. So I'm working on that now. So you got to kind of try to make things fit into certain opportunities. Horrible PowerPoints. This is an actual slide from the military project. Everything in DoD is like that. It's horrible. And just a little bit of, you might have problems with bad publicity. This happened 3 years ago. There was an SBIR proposal for biodegradable training grounds. We were working with our POC in the Army on this one project. A government researcher from the Cold Regions Research Lab developed genetically modified grass seeds that can metabolize TNT and RDX and be able to use that to take the explosives out of the ground and make the plant safe to eat for animals, so it can do reclamation. The government spends like $50,000 a square foot to clear training grounds, training ranges. They need to make sure there's no explosives in there, so if they need to go out and reseed the range after they blew everything up, they need to spend a ridiculous amount of money on it. So they had the idea, hey, let's make a biodegradable 40 millimeter training round and put the seeds in it, and we'll shoot those like the plastic ones. Well, it pretty much went viral a couple years ago. The comments on Reddit were great. But after that happened, people very high up in the Army ended up calling the POC, asking why are they shooting crazy things at people, why are you doing that? And I had to explain the whole thing, and then after that, we weren't allowed to say biodegradable. So, weird consequences. Acronyms, I'm not going to go through all these. These are up here. The big one is SBIR and DOTC. SBIR is Small Business Innovation Research, and DOTC, Department of Defense Ordnance Technology Consortium. Those are the big ones to be aware of. So this is just a little bit of an overview of the different funding programs that are available. There are tons and tons of different opportunities out there. I'm going to be focusing mainly on SBIRs and a couple of comments on OTAs and consortiums in other slides. So besides those two, there's the regular procurement DLA stuff. That's for contracts. Let's say you make a thing. You can go onto the government's website and be like, hey, I'll make this is the price for it. And it's a competitive bid, everything's open, it's FAR-based contracts, FAR is the federal acquisition regulations. Whole bunch of stuff you need to go through for that. It's probably not what you're going to start off with. The state programs. The state is really weird. DCED, they have the website of all the different programs there. Almost everything that's on there is either a loan or some type of, it's mostly loans. The grants they have are mostly for either nonprofits or special municipal organizations. Pennsylvania Bulletin, that's where they list all the new stuff that the state puts out into law. Last year, they had 2 of them in there. One was for brewery research and one was for winery research that wasn't advertised anywhere else except right there. So you need to do a lot of looking for that. Grants.gov lists all of the government grants available. You can go through and filter through everything. It's pretty easy to use. USDA has the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. That's the one I have personal work through. And then all the different various agencies, so like the Department of Health, Department of Education, all those places will have information on the website about what kind of funding opportunities they have. So SBIRs, that's going to be the best way to enter into defense contracting to be able to develop something. The SBIR program, their main goal is to develop new innovative technology to meet a gap that the government has a need for, and for that business to be able to commercialize that. So their main goal is for you to get something, either a good or service that you can sell to someone, and basically it's almost like seed funding for a company. SBIRs are a 3-phase program. Phase 1 is usually around 6 months, $100,000 to $150,000. Phase 2 is usually around 2 years and about $1 million. Phase 3, the government doesn't give you any money for that. phase 3 is the commercialization phase. If you get a phase 3, that's usually the point where it transitions to an OTA, another transaction agreement through one of the consortiums. So you're doing research with your POC, they like what you're doing, they get more government funding, not from the sibber funds, and able to give you a contract for that. And once you get to that, that's usually like millions of dollars in research. One thing to note, there's mainly two different types of forms, two different forms of awards you get for an SBIR, a grant versus a contract. Almost all of the DoD stuff is grants. USDA and handful of other ones, the USDA and a handful of other ones are grants. Almost all the other ones are contracts. The difference between the two of them, the contract, you're saying you're giving them a thing, and you're required to give them that thing. The grant, you say you're going to do that, and you make your best effort to do that. The big difference where that comes into is if there's an issue, you need more time or something like that. The grant, it's like, okay, that's fine, we'll give you no cost extension, don't worry about it. If it's a contract, if you need another month to finish, like, okay, we need some consideration. You talk with your POC, like, okay, we'll give you an extra one of these, or do research on that to fill in that. It's really not a big deal if anything goes wrong most of the time. And the big problem, main requirement for SBIRs is that the principal investigator needs to be employed full-time. So that can make things a little bit tricky, but it's usually worth it. So I'm gonna post all the slides, and there's a spreadsheet for this information. There's 11 different agencies that have SBIRs right now. A lot of these are open, and this is a chart of what their phase 1 is, what their phase 2 is, and just some notes on that, and if it's a contract or a grant. It varies a lot by different agency. For instance, the DoD, they have individual topics, like the Army is looking for the development of X. That's what you need to submit your proposal for. Other ones like the USDA, they have broad topic areas like rural development, different types of livestock development, things like that. They're very broad. So those ones, you're like, I have an idea for this that fits in with that. What do you guys think? Talk with them and then fill out your proposal, and they're a lot more flexible than some of the other ones like the DoD, Army, Navy, all those guys. OTAs, I'm just going to talk on that really quickly. So there's a lot of different types of government contracts. OTAs are not FAR-based. The main thing that they were developed for was to speed up getting money to companies doing critical research that don't fit into SBIR programs. So these are usually bigger awards. I mean, they go anywhere from a couple $1,000s to hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, they're developing a lot of new rounds and munitions through OTAs right now. With these, you need to pay to be able to participate in them. A lot of them have a membership fee that you need to pay every year. The one that I'm familiar with, DOTSI, the Department of Defense Ordnance Technology Consortium, is $500 a year to join. But once you join, they have industry days, general meetings twice a year. When you go to those, you get to have one-on-one meetings with generals, people doing procurement, all the big representatives from all of the big defense contractors like GD, Lockheed Martin, ATK, all those guys are there. And it's a really good meeting place to be at, but it is more expensive to join. And a lot of these contracts are going up against the really big defense contractors. And federal programs, we talked a little bit about this already. So getting started, this is where we're gonna talk about the steps you need to go through to actually be able to get an award and be eligible to get money from the government. Super easy, 16 steps, fill out my paperwork, and you'll be good to go. 16 is like absolutely everything you need to do. For most of the stuff for SBIRs, you're gonna be done at around 10. Federal tax ID, and one thing, almost all of these are free, only a handful of them cost a fee, so a lot of the stuff, you'll get people saying, hey, you need to register for SAM, pay your fee. You don't need to pay. Federal tax ID, super easy to do online. You can pick if you want to be a sole proprietor or an LLC, anything like that. It's really easy to set up an LLC. Once you have your federal tax ID, you have your state registration. It's another online thing that's free. Fill it out, really easy to do. Once you're registered with the state, you have your state tax ID, you need to register with e-ties to be able to file your returns for your sales and use tax if you're going to be registered with that. It's another thing that's really easy to do and self-explanatory online. After you have that, you can file your LLC formation. This is a picture of the old PDF form that you can print out and send in, but they have this available on the state website, which is really easy to use. It's a $125 fee. I believe if you're paying online, you can use a credit card. If you're gonna mail it in, you need to have a cashier's check with like a computer printed name and address on it, from what the bank's being drawn on. It's really easy. Fill the stuff on the first page and basically sign the second page, and that's it. But if you're gonna be doing that, you might wanna have a lawyer check that out because it is a legal document. Same thing with your fictitious name. If your business name doesn't have your full name in it, you pretty much have to file a fictitious name registration for it. Another thing online, it's really easy to do. It's only $70. With both of these, you need to advertise. I believe it's in 2 legal journals and a local newspaper. But all the information and instructions are listed on the website. Once you have all that stuff, get it together, go down to a bank and open up a business bank account. A free business checking account is all that you need. There's a ton of banks around here that will be able to help you with that. Then you need a DUNS number. This one is a super critical one to have if you're going to be doing government contracting. It's another one. The website is really dated, but it's mostly self-explanatory to go through. Once you get on there, put in your information and you'll get that in a day or two. Then once you have your DUNS number, you need basically everything else before that to register with SAM. You get the cage code. Cage code is super critical. Another one for doing government contracting. If you're making anything, you usually have to stamp the cage code into it. They're updating their website. It's right now they're in the process of changing over, but if you're going to register, it'll take you to sam.gov. If you click on the link there, it's pretty easy to do. It asks you a lot of questions when you're going through everything. They're pretty simple, and you can usually Google the question to find out some more information. One thing with this is this needs to be updated every year. So once you get that, you'll get a notification saying you need to go through, just basically updating your contact information, and you're good to go for another year. So once you have all of that, then you need to register with the SBIR program. So the link here, this gives you your SBC control ID. That's the small business concern number. When you're submitting your SBIR proposal, you need to have that SBC control ID to submit that, otherwise it won't let you. And then finally, you can go to grants.gov after you have all of that. This is where a lot of the proposals need to be submitted. This is by far the worst government website I've ever used. It's extremely confusing. If you have any issues with that, I'd be glad to help you, because I had to submit my USDA sibber proposal through there, and it was a nightmare. But it's supposed to be getting better, and they're supposed to be changing this in the near future, so hopefully that'll change. Once you get to this point, you're pretty much good for most SBIR proposals or SBIR topics from the different agencies. If you're going to go into DoD stuff, that you need to do more work. So, cybersecurity is a huge issue with government work right now. For pretty much any DoD contract, you're going to need to be this NIST compliant. It's a self-assessment, so you need to go through, make a plan, and say that you're compliant with all the standards. But there's like 100 and some controls that you need to go through, and it's a pain if you have more than one person. So that is what you need to do. But that is a new one that's coming out. The CMMC is another security thing. So there's 5 tiers for CMMC. It was supposed to be released by the end of this month. They haven't released the final plan yet. It's supposed to be in place by June 2020. This one, you need to be compliant with this before you can submit a DoD proposal at all. So once this comes in, this is going to be another little bit of a barrier to entry to military contracting. You need to pay a third party for your certification. No one has any idea what that's going to cost yet, so that's still an unknown. This one, if you want to handle any controlled data, not classified stuff, the government has different distribution ratings for different documents. Distro A can go out to anyone. Distro D is only Department of Defense and their contractors. If you want to be considered a defense contractor and be able to look at those documents, you need to fill this out. It's really easy to fill it out. In the box 4, you say why you need to have this access, mail it out to them, and they'll mail it back to you. They'll probably ask you for more information, send it back again, and you're good. It's a free thing. It's good for 5 years, and it's not too hard. DIBS, register on here if you want to look at regular procurement stuff. Probably no one's going to get to that point. That's a whole other world. And then consortiums, there's a link to a bunch of different consortiums. You can register with them to see what other contracting opportunities are available. And this is the last one. This is the most expensive one. It's the ITAR registration. It's the International Treaty and Arms Regulation. That's a fee. It's $2,250 a year. If you're manufacturing anything that's on the U.S. munitions list, which is a whole lot of stuff. I mean, encryption used to be on the munitions list. You need to pay that fee even if you don't export anything. The main thing with that, if you're doing any work with optics for firearms or anything that goes on a gun or any weapon system, you pretty much need to register. Or anything that's classified data, you need to pay that fee. So, a couple of tips on how to submit a winning proposal. The biggest one is make sure you're actually qualified. If you're not qualified to do all the work yourself, find a subject matter expert that'll work with you. A lot of times for your work, like in phase 1, you can only outsource 30% of the work or dollars for it. So if it's $100,000, then you can go to a professor somewhere and be like, hey, I'll give you $15,000 for X amount of consulting hours on this project. They put that team member in your proposal, really increases your chances of winning. Another thing is having more than one person on the proposal. The government looks at it. If anything happens to you and you're the only person working on it, all that work's gone. So they like having more than one person on it. And letters of support. If the agency accepts letters of support, that is a huge plus. For my tree project, my agricultural research, I found the different industry groups for those specific trees. So I went to the Christmas tree producers, the maple trees, and I think the apple producers, and told them my project, be like, can you guys give me a letter of support? and pretty much everybody gave me one. They're glad to help you out and share the research with them, and it's great. And you actually get feedback to people that are having the problems that you're trying to solve. Absolutely talk to the point of contact if you can. That makes a huge difference. A lot of the agencies limit what time you're able to talk with them. So once, like with the DoD, there's a pre-solicitation period and then an open release. You can directly talk to POCs in the pre-solicitation area. Once that's open for submissions, you can't talk with them anymore. You have to post your questions online or share it with everybody. You can give them a call, talk with them, introduce them to what you're doing, try and figure out what their vision of the solution is, and then get some feedback on what you want to do, like what your idea is. A lot of times with these, the POC is the person that writes the solicitations, is the one that you're talking to. They grade the submissions and they manage the contract when it's awarded. So you want to be friends with those people and be well known with them. Read the guidelines and the requirements for the contract and for the solicitation. It'll go through and be like, describe the problem, and everything is written out how they're going to evaluate it. And there's basically a list of questions like, does it answer this? You should look at those and write down a list of those, write down those questions, those answers, and how you're going to clearly answer each one of those in your proposal, and have a checklist so you go through and be like, this does this, this is the problem, this is how we're going to solve it, this is how this is going to be better, this is how we get to phase 2. Submit as early as possible. That is, I cannot stress that enough. And also, don't use a VPN, because government websites sometimes will not let you access it or not work if you have a VPN. I learned from experience, because we waited till the last minute and used a VPN, and we weren't able to submit like a $12 million proposal. So you do not want to miss out on that, because it's automated. If you're late, they don't care. You will not be able to participate. Another thing is make sure it's readable. My background's engineering, so sometimes I get off into like just very detailed things, and it's hard to read. Have someone else check it and make sure you use proper grammar. You do not want to have typos in a contract or a proposal for a couple $1 million worth of work. It doesn't look good. You want it to be a story, be interesting. Have a lot of pictures if you can, because you're looking at someone that's reading 15-page proposal, 20 different companies. You submit early, you get your number, so you're on top of the file, and if it's readable, it really helps you. So that's a huge one. And just a quick thing on rates. This is an extremely critical part if you're going to go after any of these. You need to know your rates, and you need to be able to prove them. Your company can't have different rates for government and non-government work. It's one set of rates that you need to have all the backup information for. The indirect rates are really important, so your overhead and G&A, that's the part where you want to talk with like a CPA to figure it out, or some of the references that I have at the end of this, because you don't want to leave money on the table, and you want to make sure that your rates are realistic, that you want to make sure that you're in line with everyone else, so you have a better chance of getting an award. 7% profit, that's general consensus, best one to use. You don't need to have a write-up on how you're going to use that money. You just put it as a line item, and you're good to go. Cost limits, super important. If you're over by a penny, they will not grade your proposal. So do not make sure you're within those cost limits. Cost limits for phase 1, like paying subcontractors or anyone, is limited to 30% of the work. Phase 2 is up to 50%. So phase 2, you can split up the money between different companies and things like that. Phase 1 is a little bit harder. This spreadsheet's available. These are some of the rates that you have to have. I made a little calculator that you can go through and put in your overhead rates and everything and check it out. So additional resources to help out with these, the SBDC and the PTAC. The PTAC is Procurement Technical Assistance something, and SBDC is the Small Business Development Centers. They'll help you with rates, they can help you with proposals, reading through, making a business plan. The SBIR website has a bunch of great tutorials and information on SBIRs, how to get started. SCORE and SBA are also good, just general business resources. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to help. That's my website, if you want to look at it, buy a barrel of whiskey, be good. So just in general, there's a lot of funding options. It's a lot of work to get started, but once you get going, it's a lot easier. It seems like a lot right now, but I was able to do it myself, and it has worked out pretty well. And the best thing about it is you get paid to make really cool, interesting new things that haven't existed before. So with that, are there any questions on anything? First.
I just, on a random point in when you were listing all your credentials and things, there was something about being a federal super PAC.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That,
I noticed.
What's up with that?
Stephen Colbert,
Yes.
he had a thing where he sold the Super PAC, Super Fun Pack.
Yeah.
And I got one, and I made my own Super PAC. I never raised any money, but I have one.
And you're licensed to sell vehicles.
Yes, I have my vehicle salesman's license, federal firearms license, special occupation taxpayer, so we can make machine gun silencers, all sorts of crazy stuff that are usually really expensive, really hard to get if you don't have that. Distillery, all sorts of fun stuff.
So then with your vehicle thing, you can make those guns, attach them to a Road Warrior vehicle, and use your super PAC to get it all legal.
Yeah.
All right, okay, that's coming together. Right.
Do you still have your ridiculously big government surplus truck?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think everyone here is familiar with that.
So yeah, I impulse bought a 5-ton army truck at work one day. Military surplus. It weighs like 20-some thousand pounds.
Big deal.
Yeah. It was really cheap, and the guy delivered it. So it was great.
I've got on Cinemile.
It's not almost. It's not that bad. It gets like 6 or 8.
What are your strategies for picking out grants to apply for?
Want something that I'm able to actually do, or know people that can help out to do that. So a lot of the ones, like my background is mechanical engineering and drone stuff, gun stuff. So I usually look for something that fits in with that. So if there was a topic for swarming with drones, I can't do much of the software, but we can build the hardware to do that. So that's the thing, is trying to find something that fits in with your skill set, and people that you know that can help you fill in things that you're not the best at. And hopefully one that's worth more money.
How long did the whole process take from beginning to end?
So beginning to end, just to get set up to be able to bid on things was about a month. Just doing stuff in my free time. The contract, the whole contracting process, it varies. SBIRs, I usually try to keep to 2 weeks to do a proposal. And then once you submit it, it's anywhere between 3 to 9 months to hear back if you're going to get an award. So I just did a USDA one a couple months ago, and they're supposed to release the awards in March of this year. Looking forward to that. And then once they say you get an award, then that can be anywhere between 2 months up to a year before we can actually work on it, get the contract awarded. Depends on how far they go into doing the cost verification and what agency it is.
And did you have to
work for your company full-time during that whole process while you're waiting for the contract? No, so, if you get an SBIR, you only need to, the principal investigator needs to be a full-time employee once the contract's awarded. So up until that point, you can be working 10 full-time jobs if you want, and it's totally fine. Yeah, I wasn't, and the USDA has a couple different research programs and funding opportunities. And it's not just like plants. They have one for rural development, for broadband internet. And one that just got a phase 2 was a guy that makes fiberglass posts for antennas that got like a $600,000 award to make more posts because they can help get internet out there. So there's a lot of things that you can look at that might be a little bit of a stretch, but they'll fund it. It's possible.
We'll try, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, put in a little bit of work and see what happens. Yes.
It seems that one of the big 3 judging criteria for sibbers is the commercialization of the project.
Yes.
And a lot of the projects seem to be very focused on very specific applications, whether it be military or somewhere else. So how do you write is there a general like tip or set of tips that you prescribe for those types of projects, making something that sounds positive?
So with that is trying to stretch it as far as possible. Like I know with our drone program, there's not a lot of people that need to shoot a drone out of a gun. That's how our program started, was an SBIR. We went through and then we got a contract for an OTA. Now we have like 7 people working on it. It's a multi-million-dollar contract. But with that one for the commercialization, they're like, well, probably not going to be shooting out of a gun, but for search and rescue, we have this thing that's hard. If a police officer needed to have something, they can have it in a tube, like folded up, and then they just need to pull a string or an air can and shoots it out or something. So it's like it's hardened, and then you can do that. Or another thing is licensing. So you might not be able to sell the product or might not have an exact fit, but you might be able to take that information or IP if it's software and license that to one of the big defense contractors and do that, because I know there's a website for SBIR technology that's available for things that they've patented and other things that aren't under license that you can go and find that out.
Are you seeing, given the, and I'm framing this question as a huge supporter of the right to repair, so I follow all that protocol, where the government, the military especially, is getting their ass handed to them now by companies like John Deere and some other contractors, because they're saying, yes, you paid for this technology, we don't have to give it to you. So now, we have military equipment they can't fix.
Yeah.
So are you seeing some of that phase 3 get reassessed, that maybe we're going to hold on to some of this?
Yeah, so they talked about that at the DOTSI meetings, where they get 3-star generals that come in, like heads of research, talking about the problems that they're facing, and that's a big one. So they're trying to push for more in-house development, and if we're paying you to develop something, we get the rights to do it. Or yes, you can have the rights to it, but we have government purpose rights where if we need that TDP to send out for bid, we can do that. You can still sell it, but if we want to send it out for bid, it needs to be fair and open competition if we paid you to make it. So that's a lot of our own stuff is government purpose rights, which helps. Yeah, it's insane. If you look at a lot of the stuff on DLA and C folders, there's divs. If you like, make this part, the technical data package isn't available. So we have no idea what the spec is. We have no idea how to make it, but you need to make it, other than that one company that's been making it for 30 years. That's ridiculous stuff.
What's the most interesting thing that you've gotten a grant or a contract for?
The most interesting thing was probably the drone work, but we did a lot of cool stuff underneath that contract. I mean, ended up making a firing range and got a high-speed camera and went up to a goat farm in upstate New York to do testing. We were testing like rocket-propelled 40 millimeter rounds and stuff like that. And then we got to go to Abu Dhabi for a defense expo to see what everyone else was working on for that project. That was probably the coolest thing.
What's the coolest one you didn't get?
There's a ton of cool stuff. I mean, the list of the Army thing that we're looking for right now. I mean, the coolest one I didn't get was a autonomous ground robot to collect ticks because I didn't have a tick expert on my team. So that is why it's very important to have a subject matter expert if you don't know about it on your proposal. Because I had everything, all the requirements, the big thing was no tick expert, you didn't get it. I think that was the thing, but apparently there's multiple ones of them.
What question would you like us to ask but you don't know enough to ask?
That, I'm not sure.
How about success rates?
Success, they vary, depends on what agency. The SBIRs, I think it's usually average around 30% hit rate for phase ones. Phase twos, about 45% of phase ones get a phase two. And if you're going to be doing an SBIR, you want to get a phase two, because if you get to a phase two, there's enough money there where you can hire someone to come onto the team. So you're freed up to go do something else, able to do the development work, and actually build a company and grow, get to the point where you commercialize that thing, and have a successful business.
That's like a 15% success rate to phase two. Start.
Yeah, it's competitive, but once you get going, it's something that you can keep going. Because one of the things that they use to rate the proposals is your past experience. So if you can show that, hey, we did this, we can do it again, it really helps once you get going. And a lot of the times you can either resubmit your proposal, and they'll give you feedback. If you don't get an award, you can ask for that, and they'll give you a whole written analysis of why your topic wasn't selected.
Just to
I have a
follow up on
question.
that is, any grant you put in, if you don't get it, always ask for that analysis.
Extremely valuable.
Most organizations will give you an analysis on why you didn't get it.
This question's more for Don Webster, just because, and I don't know if this was asked already, but do grants contribute to KIZ revenues for
Yes.
KIZ people in the room? Can you explain
Yes.
that for like 1 quick second for everybody, or?
Yes.
Yeah. That was asked already?
No, but, so grants are considered eligible revenue for purposes of tax credit considerations. T-shirt making, no. Grant making, yes. Because it's affiliated with RIPE.
What was that?
Because it's associated with RIPE.
One thing to note, if you're looking at getting into this and going after an SBIR, the Department of Defense ones, they're open right now, but they're really focused on very specialized fields. The other ones like USDA, Department of Education, a lot of the other ones, if you have a business background, education, able to come up with something and can get a team together for it, there's a ton of different funding opportunities. I just focused on the tech ones here, but there's tons of opportunities for different types of businesses and backgrounds available.
How achievable is it for an average Joe like me to actually get up and do this and submit a proposal?
I think it's doable. I mean, my tree grant was kind of like a Hail Mary thing, and I ended up getting it. I mean, it's definitely doable, and there's resources to help out. If you look on the SBIR website, there's a ton of resources that they'll help you with proposal, preparation, technical assistance, there's a ton of stuff. So I think it's doable. You just need to find the right fit for your skill set and the funding that's out there.
There are like companies that will like help you send out all that stuff.
Yeah. There's definitely consultants that'll help you prepare proposals and get everything in line. And that, like, there's a bunch of other stuff. So USDA has a bunch of different fundings. They have one program, like if you have a utility company, they'll have loans for building an incubator, different things in a rural area that 0% interest, 10-year term, like a bunch of really interesting things that are out there that are a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, we were trying to apply for the broadband one, but like their list of requirements was like a mile long. I honestly just had zero time to
Yeah,
go
that's
and do it all. So yeah, if someone else can like, if we can pay someone else to apply for us, it really makes it a lot easier.
yeah. There's definitely people that are out there, and that's one thing I'm possibly looking at doing is some consulting work. So if you ever want to help on anything, let me know.
I think I was talking about Facebook a while ago. So
Yeah.
all right.
How long did it take you to write the tree proposal?
So that one, I spent too much time on it. It was a 3-page letter and then a 15-page proposal. I think I had about a week into the letter and about 2 weeks off and on the whole proposal. But I mean, I get distracted really easily. So if you can stay focused, you can probably do it in a week, but like part-time.
You bought a multi-ton truck on a whim. No, you weren't really distracted at all.
Thought someone was gonna bid more. They didn't, so.
So Nick, if you're done with the grant stuff, do you want to tell this group about what you're doing at the distillery?
Yeah.
Find out if everybody's done, but you should tell them about what you're doing at the distillery too.
So, tied in with the government stuff, I was looking at tax sale properties in Luzerne County, and I bought a couple of them. One of them was an abandoned grain mill in Wilkes Barre. The place was first built in 1795, and a bunch of buildings, 6 buildings on 7 acres, and I'm in the process of converting it into a distillery. Going pretty well. We have all our licenses right now. Finishing cleaning up one building that's going to be our warehouse. To get started, we're going to be basically brokering barrels of whiskey. There's a huge market for people like other distilleries that want to buy whiskey that can't get it, and people that are currently selling bulk whiskey are horrible to deal with, so we're making it easy. Eventually want to build that into something where we can do our own production and create an investment platform, kind of like Rally Road, where people can buy fractional shares of barrels of whiskey, trade them, and then sell them and get revenue once we sell the barrels. The barrels, they appreciate at about a 25% compound annual growth rate, so almost like 4 times the average stock market. So that's what I've been working on for a while, and we're finally getting there.
All right. Feels like a good natural stopping point. Any final questions? All right. Nick Rosati, everybody. Thank you for sharing your passion